When we think of ancient Rome, we often picture mighty legions marching or grand gladiators fighting in the Colosseum. But there is another place that was just as important to the average Roman. This place was the public bath, or Thermae. These were not simply places to get clean, they were the beating heart of Roman cities, bustling centres of social life, business and leisure. Imagine a community centre, a gym, a spa and a public park all rolled into one magnificent building. That's what the Roman baths were. For a very small fee, sometimes even free, anyone could enter and spend their day in luxury. The fame of Roman baths has echoed through the centuries for a very good reason. They represent the incredible engineering skill and the unique social structure of the Roman world. Emperors built them to win the favour of the people, showcasing their generosity and power. The sheer scale of these buildings, like the baths of Caracalla or Diocletian in Rome, was astonishing. They could hold thousands of people at one time, making them some of the largest architectural marvels of their day. These were not just functional buildings, they were statements of Roman identity and civic pride, open to almost everyone. What makes the baths so fascinating is how they reveal the daily lives of ordinary Romans. It's in these spaces that we can almost hear the echoes of their conversations and laughter. We get a glimpse into their routines, their friendships, and their pastimes, away from the grand political dramas. The baths were a great leveller in society, where a senator might find himself splashing next to a simple shopkeeper. They tell us a story not just of emperors and armies, but of the people who made up the sprawling, vibrant Roman Empire and what mattered to them every single day. Learning about the baths is like finding a key that unlocks a different side of Roman life. It helps us move beyond the stereotypes and see a culture that valued community, relaxation and public well-being. These were places for the body and the mind. You could exercise, get a massage, read a book from the library or simply chat with friends. It's this combination of public health, social networking and entertainment that made the Roman baths so central to their world. They were an essential part of what it meant to be Roman, a daily ritual enjoyed by millions. Step inside a Roman bathhouse and you would be forgiven for thinking you had entered a palace. The Romans did not do things by halves. The interiors were breathtakingly lavish, designed to impress and delight the senses. Floors and walls were covered in intricate mosaics, showing scenes from mythology, nature, or daily life. Sunlight streamed through huge arched windows, illuminating vast high-ceilinged halls. The rooms were adorned with magnificent marble statues of gods, goddesses and famous athletes, creating an atmosphere of culture and opulence. It was a feast for the eyes, a public space filled with art. The layout of the baths was carefully planned to guide visitors through a specific sequence of rooms. You would typically begin in the apoditerium, which was the changing room. Here, you would leave your clothes in small niches or lockers, often watched over by an attendant. From there, you would proceed to the exercise yard or palaestra, an open-air courtyard for sports and workouts. After working up a sweat, the bathing ritual itself would begin. This journey through different temperatures was a core part of the experience, designed for both health and relaxation, following a path well trodden by generations of Romans. The first hot room you would enter was the tepidarium, a warm, pleasant space to help you acclimatise. This room was often the central hall, a place for socialising and relaxing before moving on. Next came the caldarium, the hot room. It was steamy and very warm, containing a pool of hot water for soaking. The heat was designed to open up the pores and cleanse the skin. For the very brave, there was sometimes a laconicum, an even hotter dry sweating room similar to a modern sauna. The air was thick with heat, a real test of endurance for those who dared. After enduring the heat, the final stop was the frigidarium, the cold room. This large room featured a deep pool of unheated water. Plunging into the cold water was a shocking but invigorating experience. It was believed to close the pores and refresh the body and mind after the intense heat of the other rooms. The sharp contrast in temperature was considered medically beneficial. With its grand architecture and central pool, the Frigidarium was often the architectural showpiece of the entire bath complex, a place to cool down and feel completely revitalized before heading back to the changing rooms. Who went to the baths? The simple answer is almost everyone. The baths were a melting pot of Roman society. Men, women and children from all social classes flocked to them. While some of the wealthiest Romans had private baths in their homes, most still frequented the public Thermae to meet people and do business. You would see senators discussing politics, merchants making deals, and soldiers relaxing on their day off. Women also had their own separate bathing sections or used the facilities at different times of the day, usually in the morning, while the men typically went in the afternoon after work. A visit to the baths was about much more than just washing. It was a full afternoon of entertainment and social activity. People went there to meet friends, catch up on the latest gossip, and simply see and be seen. In the Palaestra, men would engage in various sports like wrestling, weightlifting with dumbbells or ball games. It was a noisy, energetic space. After their exercise, they might get a massage with scented oils. Masseurs would scrape off the oil, sweat and dirt with a special curved metal tool called a strigil. This was the Roman way of getting clean before the invention of soap. The baths were also a place for intellectual and cultural pursuits. The larger bath complexes, like the baths of Caracalla, included libraries with scrolls in both Latin and Greek. People could sit in quiet reading rooms or listen to poets reciting their latest works. Philosophers might gather a crowd for a debate, and musicians could be heard playing in the gardens. Food and drink were also readily available. Vendors would wander through the halls selling snacks like sausages, pastries and fruit, so you could easily spend the entire afternoon there without ever getting bored or hungry. One fun fact is that the baths could be incredibly noisy places. The Roman writer Seneca, who lived in an apartment above a bathhouse, famously complained about the constant racket. He described hearing the grunts of weightlifters, the loud smacks of masseurs hitting people's backs, the shouts of ball players, the singing of people who loved the sound of their own voice in the echoing halls, and the piercing cries of vendors selling their wares. His description brings the chaotic, lively and very human atmosphere of the baths to life, reminding us that these were vibrant, bustling hubs of activity. The operation of the Roman baths was a marvel of engineering, especially the heating system. This clever system was called a hypocaust. Deep beneath the floors there was a raised pavement supported by hundreds of small brick pillars. In this underground space, a large furnace or pryfernium would be stoked by slaves. The hot air from the fire would circulate under the floor, heating the marble slabs above. The air would also be channeled up through hollow tiles called box flues embedded within the walls. This technology effectively turned the entire room into a giant radiator, warming the air, floors and water in the pools. Getting a constant supply of fresh water was another major challenge, which the Romans solved with their famous aqueducts. These incredible structures carried millions of litres of water from distant springs and rivers directly into the heart of the city. Once at the bathhouse, the water was stored in massive cisterns. A complex network of lead pipes then distributed the water to the various pools and fountains throughout the complex. The used water wasn't wasted either. It was cleverly channeled away to flush the public latrines, which were often located nearby, showcasing the Romans' skill in integrated urban planning. The social importance of the baths cannot be overstated. They were a cornerstone of Roman urban life, promoting a sense of community and shared identity. By providing these luxurious facilities for a minimal cost, Roman emperors demonstrated their care for the populace, a concept known as bread and circuses. It was a way to keep the vast, often restless population of Rome happy and entertained. The baths reinforced the idea that every Roman citizen, regardless of their wealth, had a right to certain comforts and pleasures. They were a physical expression of the power and generosity of the state. In conclusion, exploring the world of the Roman baths gives us a unique and intimate window into Roman civilization. They show us a society that valued health, community and engineering in equal measure. By looking past the grand temples and military forts, we discover the places where ordinary people lived their lives. The baths reveal the sounds, smells and daily routines of the ancient world. Understanding these magnificent palaces of the people helps us appreciate the complexity and ingenuity of the Romans, reminding us that their legacy is built not only on conquest, but also on their remarkable contributions to public life.